This week on The Last of Us on HBO, it's Bill and Frank's Big Gay Adventure. I dare you not to like it, bigot. Look, let's get real for a second. This was a great episode for me, but will it appeal to a broad audience? Is it woke? Is it time to write The Last of Us off as the latest scalp taken in the woke campaign to annihilate every last vestige of Western culture and civilization? Let's discuss. This is Swords and Starships, and this is my mostly spoiler-free review of The Last of Us Episode 3, Long Time. So let's start with Joel and Ellie. I think that the actress playing Ellie is starting to grow on me, and I'm really liking Pedro Pascal, I have to say. I think his performance it's interesting. It's different than any other character he's played, such as his characters in Narcos, Game of Thrones, or The Mandalorian. I love this running joke about, can I have a gun? No, stop asking. I have got to say, the zombie effects in this show are just fantastic. The way that the fungus looks is just epic. And there is a great moment in this episode where you get to see a really good close-up of one of the infected, and it's amazing how the effects are not just impressive and interesting to look at. They really tell a story, because seeing how the fungus is sort of slowly taking over every feature of the face, it's telling the story of this plague. It's telling the story of the horror of it. One other thing I really enjoy about this series, it defies a very irritating trope that has shown up recently in sci-fi, because as you know, the jocks have taken over all the things that we nerds liked. They've stuffed us in the locker and called us bigots. And meanwhile, they use every opportunity, these writers in modern Hollywood use every opportunity to subvert all of the things that we like. Case in point, have you noticed that in pretty much every superhero, sci-fi, fantasy adaptation lately, there's this type of exchange? A character asks a question about a technical aspect of the world. They're about to explain the technical aspect of the world, such as how the magic works, or how an engine is able to travel faster than light, or why a superhero has a particular design in his or her costume. And right in the middle of that, they're interrupted by a joke saying, "You're boring," or "Nobody cares." Have you noticed this trope? Just look for it. You'll see it. There's almost a kind of aversion in every series now to avoid explaining technical things in the world, as if to make fun of people who care about those technical explanations, aka nerds, geeks, the people that made these things popular in the first place. This was the exact moment I couldn't take one more minute of that stupid show. And it's the beginning of episode 2 of Halo. Master Chief, with his helmet off, is sitting in the cockpit of the Pelican, traveling it faster than light. Strong female character, as the drinker would say, because I honestly don't remember her name and I don't care, is sitting next to him in the cockpit, and she asks about something about the light speed and how that's possible, what is in the Halo universe slip space drive. And I, as a nerd, as someone who's interested in science and the possibilities of space travel, I love a good explanation of how hyperlight travel might work. And Master Chief begins to explain it in, I think, a pretty interesting way. He says, picture space as a kind of ball of yarn, and imagine that each string, boring, she interrupts, "You're ruining it," I think is her line. And that's the end of it. And we don't get an explanation of how faster than light works in the Halo universe, because nobody cares about this, you stupid nerds. You get it? So imagine how refreshing it was for me when Ellie is walking alongside Joel and she says, "I don't get it. How is it that all of this, how did the world collapse in a day?" Which is interesting, because one of the critiques of the first episode was that very thing, that it seems like, wow, the zombies took over in like one day. That was jarring. And Joel proceeds to explain it in a really simple, interesting, story-driven way. And it was a great conversation. And I was like, I appreciate that. I appreciate that this show is telling the backstory. It is showing and not telling. It is answering questions that we have in due time. It is giving us little payoffs about the things we're wondering about. You can't buy the kind of goodwill that gets you with an audience. You really can't. As a rule, I do not like episodes of shows that totally depart from the main characters in order to tell a completely different story for an entire episode. This show is about Joel and Ellie, and I want to see Joel and Ellie's journey. So I was irritated when they suddenly go back in time to the beginning of the outbreak and they begin telling the story of Bill, who is an interesting character, but at first I thought, oh, this is a cool little flashback, but then it just kept going and it just kept going and it just kept going. And I realized, okay, this is the Bill episode. And it turns out it's actually the Bill and Frank episode, and I will explain. Bill is a doomsday prepper in a bunker who, unlike the rest of his neighborhood, who are taken away by the soldiers, and as we discover, bad things happen to them. Bill is hiding in his basement with a huge arsenal of weapons and survival equipment, and he avoids capture. And he then finds himself in a post-apocalyptic world where he is, in this area, the last man around, and he proceeds to basically build his own little self-sustaining colony where he lives a pretty good life. He's played by Nick Offerman of Ron Swanson fame from Parks and Recreation. And may I say, Nick Offerman's performance in this episode is absolutely exceptional and really, really moving. And he begins to build his own little post-apocalyptic heaven, and he's quite enjoying his life until one day someone falls into one of his traps, and so we begin what is effectively most of an entire episode that is dedicated to a romance between two men. Here's what I want to say about this. It's going to be a knee-jerk reaction of, this is woke garbage and I'm tired of it. And I understand that. I truly do. And I don't blame you for having that feeling. We have had so much identity politics shoved down our throat in the most preachy, propagandistic, and really antagonistic way possible. You get the feeling every time a gay character shows up in a movie or a TV show, or any character that can fit any kind of minority identity group, you get the feeling that you are being invited, you are being taunted into saying for any reason that you dislike this story, because then you can be tarred and feathered as a bigot. And this has created a very antagonistic and truly spiteful relationship between creators and audiences. And I don't blame you for seeing this episode, which is really taken over by non-main characters, and having that reaction of like, oh, you're stuffing this in here to push the message. Wokeness is specifically a cult-like mentality that you must agree with my worldview in whole, totally. You must doctrinally sign on the dotted line and bend the knee to this ideology, or you must be destroyed, defamed, deplatformed, censored, ruined. Your life, you must be rendered persona non grata excommunicado at the Continental in order to pay your penance, sinner. I actually believe that this was written with the characters and the story as the primary purpose of it. It is not about checking a box. They are just people, and they're in a relationship, and a lot of their relationship is difficult. They fight. A lot of their relationship is boring. A woke writer is not capable of writing a story like this because all they can do is stitch together stupid leftist slogans that go on bumper stickers and kind of stitch them together into a kind of Frankenstein monster of political propaganda that loosely resembles a story, which they admire and think is beautiful, but to the rest of us is an ugly, hideous monster saying, "Please, kill me, kill me." The characters themselves, and as played, especially by Nick Offerman playing Bill, were so good that I really didn't mind it that much. And I will say it's quite refreshing to have a libertarian, sort of doomsday prepper type character not portrayed as a complete alt-right, shall we just say Yahtzee. Neither is he portrayed in an angelic light either. He's clearly a man with deep issues and deep problems. But what I like about it is he's kind of portrayed with, nuance, like character, like there's very positive aspects of his character. Look, if you're a straight person and you watch this episode and it's really not your thing and you're really not interested in watching it, I understand. I get it. And I don't hold that against anyone. I think that is, you are not a bigot if it is not enjoyable to you to watch a romance between two men. I get it if you just don't even enjoy watching a romance story, because this is basically it's a total departure from the main storyline of the show, which is Joel and Ellie. So that's another great reason that you might not like this episode, and I don't hold that against you at all. And I hope that the writers and producers and cast of this show do not make the mistake of going out on Twitter and looking for a fight with people who did not like this episode. The audience is always the genius in the room, and they have a right to their opinion, regardless of what the writers think of that opinion. And it would be a mistake to be antagonistic with fans. So, but hey, go for it. Play woke games. See what prizes you win. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and please do like and subscribe. I'm going to do a second part with spoilers on this episode, and I'm going to give you some more personal thoughts. That is my review for The Last of Us. Please do like and subscribe. And so I say to you, sailors and starnauts, I will see you out there. Make sure to check out my novel series, Blood and Oak. It's available now on Amazon. It follows the sword and sails adventures of midshipman John Sullivan. When his sister is kidnapped and sold into slavery by the Barbary pirates, this daring young Navy officer embarks on a suicidal quest for rescue and revenge. It's available now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and a fantastic audiobook narrated by Travis Baldree. I'm not just giving commentary and commenting on the problems in entertainment. I'm doing my best to be part of the solution, and I would be truly honored to earn your readership and your support. Until then, I say hail to you, hail to the fellowship, and hail to the Iron Age of entertainment.